Welcome everyone to Buying Local. I'm your host, Mike Nelson with Five Towers Media, joined today by Megan Harris Pero. And I say that because if you listen to the show, you always know I mess up everyone's name. And we just had a whole conversation about the etymology of Megan's last name. So, Megan, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us from Harris Pero Law Firm. How are you?
Thank you, Mike. Great. Yep, you got the last name, Harris.
I got it, nailed it.
Great.
I nailed it. I try to make fun of myself as much as possible, Megan. Um, so Megan, just to kind of educate the listeners a little bit on who you are and what you do at your law firm, why don't you kind of give us the rundown here about who is Megan Harris Pero?
Great. I I run a law firm. I'm an attorney and manage a law firm. There is a team of 8 of us, 2 attorneys right now, and then a lot of other people on our team that help keep things moving. We're located in Saratoga Springs, New York, and we do estate planning, which is like wills and trusts, healthcare proxies, powers of attorney, estate settlement, which is the probate of a will and trust settlement, and then something called elder law, which is basically estate planning, Medicaid planning for retiring individuals or retired individuals, and included with that Medicaid applications. And then business law, so business formations, or if a partner is exiting a business, that sort of thing. And we help all sorts of individuals and families, but we also have a niche of helping farmers and agricultural businesses.
Oh, nice. I know you and I obviously we have had coffee before and talked about the farmer connection, which of course I'm all about that, right? Close to home for me. What it sounds like there's like a wide breadth of services that you offer. Like that sounds like a lot. Is that like for 2 attorneys and I would say a large support staff, right?
Yeah, well, they all of these things kind of overlap,
Mm-hmm.
and we really focus on helping people be planned and prepared for emergencies. I think one of our core values is really caring and helping, and I kind of think of it as, not every family has someone in the family that is good at the paperwork side of things or the administrative side of things. So we kind of get to be that person for a lot of our clients. And while it does seem like a lot of things, a lot of them really overlap, especially when you're talking about helping a farm client, because then you have personal estate planning, like anyone has to deal with, power of attorney, healthcare proxy, will, and maybe a trust, but you also have a business there, a
Mm-hmm.
farm that you want to succession plan around and land that you want to protect. So all of it kind of combines together really well.
Well, how long have you been practicing law?
Oh, that's a good question. So I started the firm in my basement in Saratoga County 10 years ago.
Not
And I'm grateful to say it just took a year or two to move out of the basement, and then kind of organically grew out of different office spaces. So now we're in a comfortable space for our team of 8. And but prior to that, I worked at a really large global law firm, did a lot of real estate and exposure to some estates and trust planning for a few years. And before that, I worked in not-for-profits. So I really came at law with a caring sort of personality type.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate to have found a field within law that, we do get to care for our clients and their needs.
Well, and I mean, well, first of all, big milestone, 10 years, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you throwing a big party?
I don't, we haven't quite figured that out yet. If
Yeah.
it'll be this July, that will be 10 years. And um it's quite amazing. I don't, I would say the gray hairs are helping me feel my age lately, but oftentimes I think we think of ourselves as younger. So to think of 10 years having gone by since I started the firm is pretty exciting.
Yeah. Well, it is exciting. And for the record, we don't call them gray hairs anymore. We call them wisdom highlights.
Oh, yes. I actually at home, I always call them my wise hairs. So I, I have a similar name for them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They just seem to keep creeping in. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But I'm
But
smarter every time.
yeah. And I think COVID made that cool. So like
Absolutely.
I have two children and they tell me not to dye my hair because it's cool.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
The gray hair.
Yeah.
I feel like what's her name? Like Tulsi Gabbard's got that gray thing going on that she's really been rocking here. It's just making it cool, just making it.
Yeah. It's acceptable. It's less work. So it's good all
Uh,
around.
so you have kids. So you're
Yes.
working
Yeah.
mom, running a law firm, raising kids.
Right. Working mom, two teenage daughters, which when I tell my clients that, they're like, I'm sorry. And and it is, I love my children. Raising teenage girls is very difficult. And I'll say I have a terrific husband, and he definitely played a part in the growth of this law firm, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without him. And I do think that's something that's sometimes missing about the stories of small business is the
Mhm.
spouse, and how a lot of times a spouse or a partner, can really help their spouse or partner, grow,
Yeah,
right? And help be the safety net or help pick up the kids and things like that. So I'm
team
very
effort.
grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that from the time in your basement to even now, there's a lot of late nights on laptops, sitting on the couch, trying to catch up on things and keep it going. And business owners, you don't ever get to like punch out and go home, so to speak, right? Like you're always bringing your business with you, no matter where you are and what you're doing. So having that,
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that that's something for every small business owner knows, and anyone thinking about starting a business should know
Mhm.
that it's a never-ending job. But I've learned a lot, I think, especially in the past few years, about delegating. And our team is really great and supportive, and it takes a while to kind of learn what you can delegate and pass off, and having that trust in your team to take care of things. But we have a great team right now, and things are flowing really nicely.
Yeah, yeah, and delegation is definitely a skill, one that I'm not great at, but trying, learning more
Well,
every day.
yeah. Well, one thing about law is it's a practice. And
Mm.
when you think about it, a lot of things are a practice. So I know that your significant other is into yoga, right?
Yep.
And the practice of yoga, which is something I'm interested in too. And that's a practice. So is law. And I think small business, any of it is a practice. So we just show up every day and do our best and just
And
keep practicing.
keep practicing this.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Lots and lots of practice. Now your world, I know a little bit about what you do in estate planning and trust, and but again, like to say that I know a little bit, it really, I mean, I know a little bit, right? And because
Mhm.
it's just a staggering, like the amount of stuff that is involved in with the laws, the rules, the regulations, and all the things that go into having an estate plan, making sure it's set up properly, making sure that you're following the laws and dotting the i's and crossing it. I mean, it's absolutely staggering. Like, how do you stay on top of all that?
Well, I mean, learning things over time and it improving as we go definitely happens. We're also very active in the New York State Bar Association. So we try to keep up with changes. And there
Mhm.
certainly have been a lot of changes in the law over the last few years. And then,
Yeah.
and then we're all waking up to in the newspaper to things changing all over the place. So,
Yeah.
um, so there are a lot of things that change, and then also just things you see similarities between fact patterns with clients over time, and you kind of learn some different techniques or different options for people. And we're big on options too, because we don't there isn't really there's not typically there's not a one size fits all estate plan that you can shove at someone and say, here's what you need. There's
Mhm.
fact specific situations and different goals. So it's really kind of fun. I think it's fun because we get to know the facts, what are the goals, and then apply this set of rules essentially that and what are the changes in the rules. And a big thing is, well, what if the rules change and what if the facts change?
Mhm.
So I often describe us as worst case scenario planners. And I apologize to clients when they come in, because sometimes I'm going to bring up, what if this happens to a family member? What if that happens? And the purpose is not to, think through all of this scary stuff to be scared.
Mhm.
But if we create a plan and it's on paper, then our hopes are that in the end, the client will feel the relief that no matter what emergency situation could happen, there's a plan in place for them and for their family, really, to handle anything. Um, so I mean, that's really why we do it. And it's fun to kind of put the plan in place and see people at ease. Although people respond to this kind of planning differently, and we know that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. So we were talking a little bit before we started recording the show. Um, and you had mentioned something that was interesting to me because I have a kid in college right now, and you were mentioning something about which I think a lot of people don't really know about with kids going away to college and things that you want to put in place for when that happens. And I know we want to get into the farming, but I just wanted to ask this question too. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and for our listeners?
Absolutely. So, when kids are getting ready to go to college, or they're graduating from high school and getting into their first job, I think, we're all so excited about graduation and the next chapter. But I think from a legal standpoint, people don't always think about the fact that my child is now legally an adult means that I have a little less like supervisory control or ability to automatically help in an emergency situation. So we we offer a college preparedness package, which is a healthcare proxy and power of attorney, and try to encourage young people, entering adulthood, turning 18, to come in and have a consultation, or by teams, have a consultation. We discuss a healthcare proxy and power of attorney, and help them put those into place, because anyone can have a car accident. Just
Right.
you know, these an emergency can happen to anyone. So as soon as you're 18, it's important to have those documents in place. An 18-year-old may not necessarily need a will yet, because maybe they don't have assets that are significant enough for that. If they have a bank account, there are, recommendations we can make for that. But a healthcare proxy and power of attorney is a good idea for everyone, because it
Mhm.
empowers that individual to name the people that they would want to be in charge of their healthcare decisions, and in charge of their money, bill paying, things like signing off on their taxes, all of those sorts of things if they couldn't handle those things themselves.
Yeah, which again is not really something that you think about, like whether or not I can call the hospital and get an update on my daughter, or something were to happen.
Yeah.
It's not really, like you said, you're so focused on graduation and getting them off to that first semester. It's not really something you.
Yeah. For me, I think it's funny. I didn't go into this field thinking about this, but now that I'm in this field looking back, I realize that, oh, this makes so much sense that I'm helping people through this, because my older sister had a car accident at the age of 16 and has a traumatic brain injury. So she's alive, but with a brain injury and a conservator, just like the Britney Spears had. You know, and we don't call them that in New York. We call them a guardian.
Okay.
But it's the same thing. And but she didn't quite make it to 18, but I saw with her that a car accident can just change your life, right?
Yeah.
So, and that can happen to any of us. So just having simple documents in place for all of your family members can make things easier.
Yeah. And hard
Yeah.
to know what you need until you need it, right?
Right, right. So it's like, we sometimes we have clients that I'm like, you're going to pass away, right? Like occasionally we meet someone who thinks they're going to live forever, but
Yeah.
we all know that that's going to happen. We don't know if incapacity is going to happen and someone's going to need to manage things during our lifetime. But
Mhm.
it's still, I think of it kind of like having the umbrella, and then maybe the rainy day will never happen because you have it in place. But if it does happen, you have the right people to take care of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important for us to designate those people for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But better you get to make the choice than someone making the choice for you about who gets to make those decisions.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I know we want to talk about farm stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So and you were kind enough to connect me to a few farmers in the area, which I'm very grateful
Yeah.
for. Thank you. So why don't just tell us a little bit about how you work with farms specifically.
Yeah. So actually, I'll tell you first about why, and
Okay,
then and
even
then
better.
and then the how, because I think the why is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So when I left Big Law and moved to this area, I moved for my husband had a promotion opportunity, and we just loved the area and thought, yeah, we want to spend the rest of our lives here. And we spend a lot of time in Essex County, which is rural.
Mhm.
Um, Part of it, in the Adirondack Park. And then there are a lot of small farms. And
Yeah.
I was kind of looking around, knowing I wanted to do estate planning, but I think from my not-for-profit background, also kind of wanted to think about, well, who do I want to help? And um, especially from Essex Farm up in the town of Essex, they were kind of bringing in a lot of young farmers, training them. And then you saw a lot of, this was around 10 years ago, a pop-up of a whole bunch of little farms in the area. And actually some like cross circulation with Saratoga County also,
Okay.
which is kind of fun to see. But so kind of knowing that there was this exciting new population of young and beginning farmers kind of getting going,
Mhm.
that really inspired me to say, what can I do to help this population? Like I know they need planning too. What do they need? So I went to every farm conference in the area that I could find out about. I talked to people. Who do I need to speak with? Did some good old fashioned networking. And I remember speaking with David Haight of American Farmland Trust, and among many others. And I found a program called Lead New York, which is out of Cornell. And it's a 2-year program for developing leaders from various professions to help advance agriculture in New York State. And I was lucky they picked me to be a member of their group, and it's a 2-year commitment. We were a group of people that got together at different places in New York State for leadership training and got to tour farms and talk about issues with agriculture in New York State. And then the second year, we went to DC and learned about federal sector. And we also went to Canada and culminated in a trip to Vietnam and the Philippines to look at agriculture internationally. So that was a really great connector for me, an eye-opener to different types of agricultural businesses in New York State. Most of our clients today are still small farm clients. And we help them with the same sorts of things that we help other small businesses, except that we are aware of different programs for farmers and some different tax advantages and things like that. So we have a good network of like tax advisors that typically work with farmers that we commonly work with, and other organizations that help farmers with technical assistance, meaning including, although I'm not sure if the funding is in jeopardy, but some of these organizations would receive funding to help pay for our services and business consultant services and things like that. So one of those organizations is Hudson Valley Agribusiness Development Corporation. And so they serve mostly Hudson Valley, but some they've assisted with some clients like up in Washington County, Rensselaer. And so we do farm succession planning, but it depends on the facts and the goals, like with anyone else. So sometimes the farmers don't have healthcare proxy power of attorney, a will or a trust in place, and they may not know where they want the farm to ultimately go yet. Maybe they are thinking of selling, or they're not sure which child is going to take over. So sometimes it's just having the basic documents that everyone else has in place, but kind of being aware of the special assets or circumstances they have, and having some of the conversations like, so what happens to the cows if you pass away tomorrow?
Right. That was gonna be one of my questions. Like, what? Yeah, it get kind of tricky with all the different things that are on farms, or the situations of how farms are set up. Like, I know there's a lot of farms that don't even own some or all of the land that they're farming on. They're leasing it, and they're long-term leasing. What happens with all of that? And there's assets, but there's also liabilities, and figuring out that whole plan. I'd imagine it's staggering.
Yeah, it oftentimes takes a lot more time than other plans. Yeah, especially like I can think of one client where there are these great ideas of where everything's going to go, but there are loans, and how are the loans going to get paid off? And if the money's going to these people, but you're leaving the assets that are, essentially liened to these other people, like trying to figure out, how do we make that all work? And
they're really inheriting liens at that point, right?
Right. So we need some liquidity. Like, is there a life insurance policy, or do we want to rethink where the assets go? So, all that stuff that might scare people from doing anything, I say, like, bring us the facts, and let us play with it. And it reminds me of one of my law school professors who just always said, it depends. Like
It
that's the
depends.
famous legal answer. You ask a
Yeah.
question, it depends. What are the facts? Um, yeah.
Yeah, so do you see a lot of well, I guess I would imagine that like when you're sitting down with someone, you really have to, like you said, like develop like what's the overall grand plan of things. Do you find that you end up having to either make a lot of recommendations that are outside of your legal scope or bring in experts to help, like whether it's wealth managers or financial people to kind of help them navigate that? Like, what does that look like when you're putting that plan together with them?
It I want to just say it depends.
It depends,
But
right?
but but for farmers, commonly we might recommend that one resource is New York FarmNet.
Mhm.
So New York FarmNet was that was created to because there was acknowledgement that farmers would had I think probably still do have a high suicide rate. It's farmers take it exceptionally personally that their job is to, feed us.
Mhm.
When you think about it, we all eat every single day, at least 3 meals a day. And farmers have that very important job of they're producing, food in some form or fashion
Yeah.
to end up on someone's table. So if they have a bad year and if finances are dire, like also it could put their family farm at risk. Like there's a lot of pressure for farmers. So New York FarmNet is a free service for farmers that is a support for that any farmer can call and see if they can provide assistance. But they will provide business consultant services and also social work services. So that is a resource that a lot of our farmer clients might take advantage of, especially when they're thinking about succession planning or if there's any tension in the family between different generations. Um, I early on in the firm, I went through a mediation training, which was really great. And I did a little bit of mediation for there's another group called the New York State Agricultural Mediation Program,
Mhm.
and that's another service where it it hopefully is still grant funded and can provide free mediation for
Mhm.
farmers in a dispute. Um, but I quickly learned, people didn't want to pay an attorney to be a mediator, and
Yeah.
it's better to have the one hat and to pull in mediation services or advise that clients go seek those when warranted. And then there are business consultants. Let's see, Farm Credit East has some great business consultants. You pay for those services.
Mhm.
You have very skilled people assisting you, and then farmers have financial advisors, oftentimes just like any of us.
Yeah.
And they can come from all sorts of places, although there are some that typically work more with farmers than others. But a big difference that is, farmers are really investing in land and what they need for the farm,
Yeah.
right? So that is protecting that land, um, sometimes from a Medicaid lien potentially,
Yeah.
is something that we're sometimes looking at for the smaller farms also.
Yeah. It's well, yeah. I mean, you think about farms, think about like farm equipment, the land. Like farm equipment is ridiculous, and even small farmers have equipment out there. They've probably got hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, if they're large. If they're using if they're on large tracts of land, they could have $1 million John Deere tractor out there.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
pretty wild. And then what do you do with that stuff? Making sure it's going somewhere. Or
Yeah.
you know.
Well, if you have a lot of that expensive equipment, then you wanna structure your business so it's gonna survive, and you're hoping to pass it on to next generation, or um uh, another farmer, or bring up a worker and hope that they start to take over. So it really varies for people, but it is
Yeah.
exciting, like different kinds of
Yeah.
assets. And what I like sometimes for the farmers, so we have a basic questionnaire, but they usually have a schedule from their tax return with a list of all their equipment, and that's kind of fun to look through sometimes.
I bet. As you're talking, I was wondering, like, to me, my experience with farmers is most farmers are usually long-term planners. And, because they always have to be looking at next season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, depending on what they're growing or raising, if they're on the livestock side of things. But you're always looking down the road. And so I'm just wondering, like, does that automatically make farmers an easier client when dealing with this kind of stuff?
It it depends
It
again,
depends.
right?
Depends on the farmer.
It depends. It's funny. I'll just say from a business perspective, we were talking about delegating earlier. Like, another good business tip is having a process, right? And I know, like, our business has improved. We're not perfect. We've made mistakes, and but a lot of times mistakes can be reduced by having a process, and a consistent process that you go through. And I laugh sometimes because we have weekly meetings, and we check in on issues, and was it a process problem? Like, what happened? And sometimes I have to remind myself, like, our team can have the greatest process, but we are constantly engaging with different people all the time.
Mhm.
Each client is so different, and one is fine on the computer, for example, and another, like, doesn't touch them. And the farmers are the same way,
Yeah.
so you have to meet people where they are, and have adaptations for your process at the ready to try to make things easier for people, so that
Yeah.
it's not so intimidating, for
Yeah, I
sure.
always tell my team that, because we're the same way. We're a small business, but we try very hard to have processes in for everything that we do so that it's consistent and repeatable and easier for new people to learn, but also better for us to execute in the end, better for our clients. And, to your point, right? Like, what I say is, like, clients are always going to try to pull us out of our process, not because they're
Mhm.
trying to do something nefarious. It's just they don't know what our processes are, and they have a view in their mind of what they want to do, and that's going to pull us out of our process. And our job becomes to get them back into that process at the earliest possible time, right? So it's to you, like you said, meet
Yeah,
who they are,
yeah.
don't make it confrontational, guide them gently and get them back into the process and try to nurture them through it. But yeah, it's interesting. It's always an adventure.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, that makes this fun and exciting. And it also, what's interesting, the time we're in with AI and
Yeah.
computers, and just the competition online, and who will make a will or a trust for you. And I am not I know that our product is better, right? Because people are not robots.
Yeah.
They are not, a blue block and a red block and a yellow block makes this kind of person. People have experiences, and they say, I'm not going to use the computer anymore, or I do use the computer, but I don't share this kind of stuff, or I the LegalZoom thing isn't going to ask them about the cousin that wronged them and what happened, and or that they want to leave money to that cousin, but they don't want to leave money directly because the cousin has mental illness. And, well, what does
Mhm.
that really mean, and what can we do and not do? So I think that people and farmers we're complex,
Yes.
and we have different goals. So um, we we try to recognize those in the office and really put together something that is going to work for various scenarios and tries to address those goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know we're getting short on time, but if you're a farmer and you don't
Mhm.
have these things in place, or maybe even if you do, what would be one piece of advice that you would give someone in the farming community, as far as long-term planning, right? From a
Yeah.
legal, from what you do standpoint, what would that be?
I would say if they don't have anything in place, that regardless of your age, if you're an adult, you need to have at least some basic estate planning documents in place. Because again, anyone can have a car accident, but when you're talking about farmers and tractors and machinery, you increase the risks from like I sit in a computer most days or at a table. My job is a little bit less risky, but
Mhm.
the farm clients usually they have more of a risky profession.
Yeah.
Um, so they should have those documents in place. Um, and I see a lot of farmers thinking, well, I mean, I think there's just a thought, well, I'm not ready to pass away yet, or I don't know where the farm's going to go. And I think just like when you're a parent and you might feel like, oh, I don't know who I would name as a guardian for my child if I wasn't there. You have to just think about today. Like,
Mhm.
what if something happened today or tomorrow? What would be the best option for now? And it's scary to think about, but our thoughts do not become reality, or we'd all be in trouble because we all have thoughts sometimes that are scary. And thankfully, those do not, become reality just because they popped into your head. So,
Mhm.
kind of allowing yourself to think through and create that emergency plan, I think is good for you and your family and your business. Um, and right, and because for farmers too, it's that pressure of you provide, your business provides food for people. It might provide a legacy of land. It also might mean jobs to people. So you owe it to all of those people to have something in place, even if it's not your final succession plan.
Sure.
And I think that applies to a lot of people feel like, well, I just haven't done my will yet, because it's like I'm not ready to go. But
Right.
you're probably going to have a new will at some point in your life if you're really going to keep yourself prepared, because you
Yeah.
change and your business is going to change.
Well, and as you're talking too, it's my question becomes like, from everything you've said in the beginning of the show, and then relating specifically to farmers, having those things in place gives you at least some level of control as to what
Mhm.
happens to your farm, your livestock, your equipment, whatever it is. Like, it gives you some level of control about what happens should something happen to you. So my question is, what if you don't have those things in place? What happens?
Oh, New York State has a plan for you.
Oh, well, they
If
usually have really good plans, so I
they
mean, I
have
can breathe
they
easy.
have a they have a great plan.
Yeah.
So the thing that surprises most people is if you have a spouse and children, everything that you own does not go to your spouse. Your spouse has to share those assets with the children. It's
Okay.
not 100% everything to my spouse, because and I think that surprises a lot of people, because you don't think of your kid getting a share in there. You just think everything's going to go to your spouse. So
And that's kind of what I thought.
yeah, so that's kind of the most surprising thing that New York State has in place. And then I would say, like, for healthcare, um, it's the default is spouse, but then and then I think it goes parent, so your parents and then your adult children, I'm pretty off my memory. But then what if you have more than one child?
Right.
And is your relationship with those children all the same? And you know, which of the children are the ones that you would really want to make medical decisions for you?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know, I love my two children dearly, but they're different, you know. I have two daughters and they're very different. So you know, anyone that, like, when clients say, "Oh, all my kids feel the same." Do they really? You know, and I think it's a lot of pressure to put on kids when you haven't figured out who should make
Yeah.
a certain decision. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna let them decide and duke it out. Like, if they've ever fought about anything, they're gonna fight now.
Oh, kids
Right?
never do, right?
Yeah.
Kids never fight about anything.
Yeah, my kids are angels all the time. Right. Yeah.
Oh, well, listen, I
So,
just I
yeah.
want to say thank you for coming on the show, Megan. I really appreciate it. Appreciate what you're doing in the farm community. And I know when we spoke, you were talking about all sorts of farms I didn't even know were out there. So I was excited to learn about some new local farms and about a bunch of different organizations. Also, I was familiar with some and others I'd never heard of. And so I started looking them up, and there's a lot of great support out there if people are able to find it. So, you know, thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for coming on the show. If
Thank
people,
you. So, yeah, thank you so much. And I think we're in a great region for agriculture. And I just want to also encourage listeners to support our local agriculture, but join a CSA, you know, which means pay for a share of farm fresh food and get go to events or get connected with Saratoga Plan and Agricultural Stewardship Association, and just it's important that we support these small farms so that they remain here in our area.
yeah, 90% of farms in America that do under $500,000 in revenue, and we're losing about 150,000 of them every year. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
crazy.
it's it's amazing. And if listeners want to go look at the at Agricultural Stewardship Association's website, the ASA website, they have a
Mhm.
cool interactive map, I believe, where you can see what farmland they've preserved with a conservation easement.
Yeah,
And you know, they're charging each year, they're like charging through trying to conserve more and more acreage. And I think you know, it's at a time right now where funding for these things is kind of questionable.
yeah,
Because some funding does come through the federal government, a lot of it from the state for
mhm.
these easements. But I think it's an important time, if this is what you care about, to look out for these organizations for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And it's an easy thing. We have so many farmers markets in Warren, Washington, Saratoga County. I mean, it's the easiest thing to go and support a local farmer, like, uh,
Yeah.
or going to Buckley's farm or any of these other farms that are able to sell consumer direct. I mean, it's important. Help keep them alive, keep them going.
Yep.
Megan, if
Thank you so much.
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
If you want to
Yeah.
learn more about you or more about your firm and how you can help them, how do they find you?
At saratogawills.com. And on there, we also have a whole page with videos for about farm succession that I did with the Adirondack Land Trust. So
Nice.
there's a whole lot of information on there, but saratogawills.com.
Perfect. And are you on the social medias at all? Are you guys out there in that land?
We are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and now Nextdoor. And
Oh,
we would love more followers. We have some really creative posts and not a big enough audience, I would
all right.
say.
All right.
So
So get out there, everybody, and follow them
yeah.
on what is it, the next door app, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
we just joined because it seems like people are talking on there. So
Oh, there's some conversations going on for
oh
sure.
yeah.
Megan, thanks again. I
Okay,
appreciate it.
thank
Enjoy the
you.
rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon. And thanks everybody for listening. Of course, you can find us. Buying Local Podcast is on Spotify, Apple, YouTube and Rumble, and you can get all those links if you head on over to buyinglocal.us and click on the media link. It's got our podcast, it's got our Blue Collar Startup podcast, and also we just launched a new podcast that we're producing for Steven Zabala from Green Fork. The podcast is called Food for Thought. He's got some really interesting things going on over there. So check it out, and you'll hear from us next week.